Gee.
Okay, so hey everyone, I would like to call to order the Town of Ulysses Comp Plan Steering Committee meeting for January 14th, 2026. Our first order of business is roll call of committee members.
Carl Pankowski, Planning Board.
No fine, Planning Board.
Neil Stevenson, Town Planner.
Roxanne Marino, Conservation and Sustainability Advisory Council.
Karen Metter, BZA. Allison Weaver, committee member.
Elizabeth Weatherby, town board member.
And I'm Ann DePetta. I am a member of this committee and I am the chair with Liz being co-chair. So did everyone have a chance? Our second item on the agenda is to review the agenda. Did everyone get a chance to look at the agenda? Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Make a motion.
There's one thing, I guess we don't have minutes for so our third item is approving the past minutes. I guess we don't have those yet. So Niels, we need to, how do we say that? We're just
We'll table it till next.
Yeah.
So is that an adjustment? Is that like an official adjustment to the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we could table that discussion to our next meeting where we have minutes, then we could amend the agenda.
Make a motion to accept the amended agenda.
I'll second it.
Great. Thank you, Carl. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just a question though,
opposed?
number 6 is going to be our discussion too, not just the public comments that we're not just discussing the public's comments. It's ours too and our concerns. Okay, just want to make sure
Okay.
because I have a lot.
That's a good clarification. No, that's a good clarification. Okay, so item number 3, approval of last minutes is not happening because we are moving that to the next meeting as we just amended. Item number 4 is privilege of the floor. So this portion of the committee meeting is where members of the public can make general comments on items that are not related to other items on our agenda tonight. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes in length. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on items not on tonight's agenda, would you let us know? Okay. So do we just have you come on up and
thank
introduce
you.
yourself? Yep.
Bob Howard from Reynolds Road on Ulysses. I'm not quite sure if it's on the agenda for tonight or not, because I haven't seen the agenda, but I submitted written comments to you earlier. And I just want to very briefly summarize those in interest of your time.
We all
They-
did just get a
we
copy,
did.
just
They
so
might
you know.
go in
Okay.
the public hearing on the topic though, right? I mean, we have the public hearing also, comments, right?
Yes.
That are particularly on.
Is this the wrong place to speak? I don't understand.
I'm just wondering.
This is the
Happy to follow
privilege.
the rule.
Yeah. This is the privilege of the floor, which is where members of the public address us on items not on the agenda. So the next item on the agenda is the public hearing, which is the continued hearing from the last meeting.
Well, I wanted to speak to some of the proposed changes in land use. I don't know if
Okay,
that's-
so should that be an item, should that be in the public hearing versus privilege of the floor?
I mean, the public hearing is
Either way.
on the entire comp plan. We're not specifically talking about specific.
that is
chapter
on the
it, but
agenda,
It is on
so-
the agenda, so probably technically,
You want me to hold
public
on?
hearing is the opportunity.
All right, we're gonna see you.
I will be back.
We're
In a
mixing
few minutes.
You know where to
Okay.
find
All right, we're gonna have you come back. Anyone else in the audience want to come up and address? Hi, Diane. Do you want to just say who you are and that you're here?
Diane Cohen, 25-year resident.
Thank you, Diane. Okay, back to privilege of the floor. Anyone else in the audience want to address the board on something that's not on the agenda? Okay, I think that means no. Oh, is there one online? Okay, looks like we can maybe get a motion to close privilege of the floor. Thank you, Mo. Can we get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Liz. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. Okay, the next item now is the continuation of the public hearing on the draft comprehensive plan. We are shooting for 30 minutes. on this discussion. Members of the public will be given the opportunity to provide comments on the drafts so far. We ask that the public members review the meeting guidelines at the back of the agenda, which has the basic rules and guidelines for public comment. We will alternate between people present at town hall with those attending online. Those wishing to speak must first be recognized by the chair. Speakers may not yield any remaining time they have to another speaker. Please clearly state your name and address for the record, and public comments will be limited to 3 minutes in length. And the committee will table the public hearing after 30 minutes. Do you make us a timer?
Yep.
Sweet.
And just as advertised, we are limiting it to 30 minutes today because the committee wants to have ample time to talk through the land use map and the land use elements. So, but you could always provide comments, written comments through the town, the planning board. You can come to the town board meetings. So just because we are only limiting this to half hour, we still want to hear you guys, just in case we go long.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, now can we just get like a show of hands of how many people want to address during the public hearing, if you already know? Okay, so we know we have a couple, 3, 4. Okay, great, thank you. Come on up.
Thank you. Again, I'm Bob Howarth, 4124 Reynolds Road in the town of Ulysses, Williamsburg. I've submitted written comments, but I just want to briefly summarize them. I want to address 3 points that I think are important when we go from the existing sort of zoning land use to the proposed. First is I had nothing to do with the development originally of the lakeshore zone and the conservation zone, but there's a tremendous amount of effort by a lot of people in the town to make those zones. And I think it's really important. Those zones are include highly erodible lands, very, very steep elevations. They're close to the lake. How we manage them is really important. It's not the same as the rest of the town. And I really urge that the town continue to recognize those as distinct, important areas that we consider separately. Secondly, I'm not in favor at all of including industrial uses in the map. We haven't had industrial uses in the past, and I think that has served the town well not to have done. When Roxanne was the supervisor, the town banned fracking, and the legals at the time pointed out that the fact that we did not have industrial zones in our zoning was helpful in that legal context. I'm specifically concerned, though, about converting this parcel over here, which currently is an illegal junkyard, into a industrial zone. I believe the town should be forcing that to be cleaned up. They shouldn't be permitting it. And I went through the zoning in some detail. I was the chair of the BZA for 5 years and on the BZA for 11 years. And I spent a couple hours today going through the zoning. The zoning is quite clear that any junkyard or anything like a junkyard is non-conforming. It is illegal. It must have been cleaned up years ago. So the town should clean that up. We shouldn't take that as something and turn it into industrial. And third, I'm concerned about this big orange swath.
Should we turn that so people also can, I mean, I don't know, I just feel like people can't see what you're saying, but go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
You're cutting my 3 minutes.
I know, I'm sorry.
Maybe a couple of-
My bad. Just feel like people don't know.
Which it seems to be related, at least visually, to water use and water extension through there. And, you know, I was on the Ag and Farmland Protection Committee for several years, and, you know, we studied ag and markets laws and all, and ag and markets is quite clear that we do not, in an agricultural district, which this is a county and state approved, all of this area is in a state and county approved agricultural zone. You want to discourage extended water use and particularly because you don't want residential development, and this is going the wrong way. I reached out to Ag and Markets to talk about that, to get their sense of what the history was on these various things, and I included my communication with them. They say that there's only one recognized water district in the town, it's Water District 3. All of the other things that the town's involved in with water through Ag and Markets says might be illegal, certainly are not recognized by them. So the town should proceed very carefully with whatever it does with this piping through here. In the end, if you want to get any money from any state agency, it requires Ag and Markets review. And I think they look at it very, very skeptically. So I've included that language, and I'm happy to follow up on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Our next person we want to come up. If you could just introduce yourself, your name and address for the record.
Sarah Adams, 4 Fall Street, Village, Plymouthburg. As you know, I've spoken here on other evenings. I'm in pretty much complete agreement with everything Bob just said, and I will be submitting a written, some written comments as well. I also hope, and I'm looking back at the comments that was submitted by Sue Ritter back in November, and I think that was a very in-depth and detailed and hopefully helpful a view of some of the discrepancies. I continue to say that I think that the vision plan, the vision for the 2025 is contradictory in the sense that, we want to retain the rural character, the agricultural components, the natural resources, but we also want to provide housing to, so it's kind of pretty much anyone, everyone. And obviously those two things can't really go together all that well. I want to note that 90% of the town of Ulysses is in an ag district. And I find it weird that agriculture in the comp plan is not given its own distinct element, chapter, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's really, it feels like housing has kind of taken over from agriculture. And I don't feel that the comp plan makes a solid case for that. I mean, talks about losing, the demographics just don't support that. And so the housing part of it really disturbs me in the sense that it's being suggested in areas where there's no municipal services, not necessarily even near a road serviced by some, public transportation, without some serious economic development, which I don't think this plan really provides. It's just so clear to me who is going to be living in all of this housing, other than, what I call Ithaca refugees. What I don't want to see is for the town of Ulysses to become like the town of Lansing, which just has all of these housing developments, not connected. They're not based around community resources. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing. Those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, who's next?
Ellen McClellan, I own property at 8120 Route 227. And I mainly want to reiterate some comments that I've made before. And that is how my property is classified. It does not fit your definition of low density residential, which those are supposed to be places that are not in the agricultural district. My property is in the agricultural district. It has active farm use, and if you want to look at whether it's commercial or not, yes, it was a family farm for 100 years until it became commercial in 1956. So that's a pretty long history for that. It doesn't fit the size of the in your definition of, less than one dwelling per 2 acres. I have almost 25 acres. And most of that is in the agricultural district. It has not been subdivided to add housing. Yes, it was part of a larger farm at one point, but the other 50 acres plus across the road is still owned by my brother. So it's still, and that's still commercial as well. My sense is that while I understand that land use is not zoning, I understand that, but that's not irrelevant, because stated in your goals and objectives, the LRP 111 is to revise the town's zoning and development ordinances and the zoning map to align with the comprehensive plan land use and development recommendations. And I do not want to see my property zoned as strictly residential and not as agricultural. On the 2015 current land use map that you're using, it is predominantly agricultural. Yes, there is a house there. That house was built in 1852 as part of a farm. So I don't, if you make your zoning follow your land use map with us in the here, if you don't follow that, my understanding is that you open yourself up to legal challenges. And that is not a result that's acceptable to me. My property is not the same. You've got it all lumped together along here. And my property is not the same as those. It strikes me that this looks like it, was drawn to create a nice neat block. And it's contrary to what the actual use is. So that's, yes, I feel strongly about it.
Thank you for, thank you for coming up and sharing that. Anyone else?
My name is Janice Broussard, and I live at 13 South Street. I'm now the new village historian and learning a lot about, we've lived here for 40 years and have learning a lot about the history of the area. And basically, I'm learning a lot, but also realize how important agriculture has been to this community over the years, as well as the abundant amount of water that is available along the shore. And for example, the village water comes from wells there at the lake. So I think it is extremely important to preserve the environmental protections along the shore. I can't even imagine why we would want to lift that and endanger our water source that we all depend on every single day. I'm a retired high school science teacher, and I spent a lot of time teaching about environmental issues, and can say that I was at the very first Earth Day in the early 70s. And I have been committed to that concept of conserving the basic qualities that our environment gives us, which is the soil and the water and the air. And by subdividing good farmland, I think we are defeating the purpose of providing food to the entire country. And polluting the water or not protecting the water could lead us all to very serious health problems in the future.
Janice. Anyone else like to address the committee for as part of the public hearing?
Linda Little, and I live on Du Bois Road, and I'm on the planning board as well. So, and my question, or what I'm looking for is more clarification between what's in Appendix F and the land use requirements. It looks to me, and I may have missed some of the discussions that you've all had to clarify that that there is a lot more. We're opening up more opportunities for a particular individual or an industry or a company to come in and change the zoning and open us to more spot type zoning opportunities. And that's what I see in the Appendix F and the way it's laid out. So that going on, just by example, I know that on the planning board, we've recently been dealing with a rezoning opportunity within the planning board and with the BCA, and looked it up how to rezone. And it seems the system seems to work. It takes a while, but we seem to be able to do that when necessary. There's a development district that's being rezoned to that. You know, if any of you know it, where Barangas used to be. So that's being rezoned to provide housing as well as eventually perhaps some industrial in that area. So maybe it's just not understanding what you're trying to get to with Section F, and if there's more explanation on that. It wasn't clear to me in reading through the plan and looking at it how that prevents or why that doesn't cause us to be more open to more spot type zoning.
To confirm, you're talking about the annual amendment and update of the comp plan.
No, there was also individuals being able to bring forward.
But that is Appendix F.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
appendix.
it's in that section.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
gotcha.
Just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Great, thank you, Linda. Anyone else?
Online.
Deborah or let's see,
Jessica
Susan?
Geary is part of.
Yeah, but I can't read
Sue
it.
Ritter.
Oh, Sue. Okay. Does Deborah or Sue wanna have anything they wanna address the committee? Okay, are we good with that? So I think we are done with that, and we will close it and then reopen it. It'll reopen again at our next meeting on January 28th. But if we could get a motion to table the public hearing until our next meeting.
I will do that.
No, in a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Great, thank you. Thank you all for your comments. The next item on the agenda is we're on number 6, draft land use element and future land use map, and then also the public comments received.
Yeah.
That's Matt.
All right. Thank you all. Neil's asked just, for me to give one more quick overview. I'm sure the folks on this panel and lots of folks in the audience are hearing this as a rerun. But I do appreciate the fact that that folks here understand the difference between future land use and zoning. And I appreciate the distinctions that the folks in the audience have made to that effect tonight. The future land use map itself is a critical visual tool. I encourage everyone, probably everyone who's in this room already has done this. Encourage anyone who's listening to this recording to go in and read the full section around around future land use considerations, because it is a much deeper dive than we could fit in a little label right here, right? That tells us, what the town would hope to see with respect to this exercise, with respect to this future land use exercise. And so, some of the really specific things that I think this group's going to have to wrestle with, and I think it's great comments tonight, particularly around the areas of industrial. Good questions about, do we need an industrial designation? And is the fact that some even former or possibly non-conforming industrial use or industrial adjacent use sitting on the site today, does that mean that the town needs to consider that into the future? Is that the optimum use for that site? That's for this committee to discuss and to deliberate. But I think it's an important point that you all ought to tackle. One thing I just want to address that I've heard as a theme that's run through public hearings and through some of our discussions here, and that's the idea that the plan is suggesting that the lakeshore or conservation districts be eliminated, that we suspend the protections that are afforded in those districts. We did, and Niels has suggested, and this is something that the committee can discuss or determine if you think is a good idea. But Niels has suggested that we build a table that cross-references existing zoning districts with future land use designations. So, for example, the agriculture and natural resources lands is a future land use designation. Which zoning districts today would fit into that future land use designation, right? Because in our review, at least in our assessment, both the conservation district and the lakeshore district both fit into this the designation, the future land use designation that's sitting there. So someone raised the question, well, the law says when you update your zoning, it has to conform with the comprehensive plan, and that's accurate. And so I feel like I could go to the town attorney today and say, we're updating our zoning, we're making some changes in the community, and we don't want to touch the zoning designations that are out here. We don't want to amend them at all. Does that conform with the future land use plan and with the comprehensive plan? And the answer is yes, it does. If you update your zoning if you adopt this plan tonight and update your zoning tomorrow and say we're not touching one word in those districts along the lakeshore, you'll be within the bounds of the comprehensive plan. You'll be aligned with the goals of the comprehensive plan.
Matt,
yes,
I would affirm this. I've actually spoken to the town attorney about this. It does not require change in any of the zones.
So I would ask that as you're pushing your buggy, your grocery cart through the produce aisle, and someone grabs you and says, why on earth is the comprehensive planning committee suggesting a repeal of all these protections? I would ask you to just ground them quickly and say, doesn't say that anywhere. And in fact, if the town board does nothing, freezes those in time, it'll be in complete conformance with the comprehensive plan. So that was just something that I've heard a couple of different times. I just want to make sure that I'm pretty sure you all understand it because you work inside of it, but just want to make sure that anyone listening at home or who goes back and reviews these recordings instead of watching the Golden Globes picks up on that, right? So I would say that, and then one other item that I picked up on relative to Appendix F. Most of what's in Appendix F today, actually all of what's in Appendix F today as I read it, can happen anyway, can happen according to state law. That's Appendix F is more of an expression about how the town board is going to consider. It's pretty progressive to say, hey, we're going to take a look at our comprehensive plan each year just to make sure that we're progressing along the way. Residents come forward with concerns about particular designations. Those are all questions that can be asked. Spot zoning is illegal, whether the comp plan says it's okay, which this comp plan doesn't, or not. You can't spot zone. It's just illegal. And so nothing in Appendix F or anywhere else is going to enable that or facilitate or accelerate that. Just, it's not possible. It's not supposed to be possible. So tonight, what I'm hoping to do, if I can help facilitate this process, we circulated, Carl, Jessica did, I just saw Jessica did redistribute at the beginning of this meeting the full consolidated list of comments to the draft. Did you get it?
I saw that. The one I was really looking for is she had consolidated the public comments that had come in about a week or 10 days ago. And that's the one I can't find.
Oh, okay. Jessica, can you?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So we have that here. And then what I left on your table for you were public engagement takeaways. When we had our public engagement sessions and heard from the community, we heard lots of things about lots of areas of the plan, but Jessica consolidated the future land use comments into a single document for you all to think through tonight. So how I would encourage this to go is, if there are folks who have particular items that they'd like to debate, I think in order to ensure that all the committee members are heard, it would be great if you could engage in sort of a round robin style where a committee member offers a question for discussion, and you discuss it and make a determination, and then we move to the next committee member, if that makes sense. Flip a coin, doesn't matter which side we start on, or unless somebody wants to just go first.
Yeah.
I guess, do we want to start with the map or the section? Thank you.
Sorry, where did you want to start?
I just didn't know if we want to focus on, I mean, I know they're interrelated, but do we want to focus on the map and look and dissect the map? Do we want to focus on the element, the written chapter?
Well, what does everybody think?
I think the map is most of the written chapter, the details of it. So, I mean, there's a lot together there. So.
Yeah, we had a lot of comments about the map. Want to
Yeah,
start there?
and the associated, what is proposed to be allowed,
Yeah.
which is what's written in a lot of what's written in the chapter, not all of it, but.
Okay. So where do we begin?
I didn't read this one.
Well, I have many things, so I won't say them all at once, but I just, on to the first thing we just heard. I would like to understand better how it is that we propose a land use designation that is the same along the lakeshore as it is up in flatland where agricultural land is. Yet we say we're keeping the conservation zone and the lakeshore zone exactly the way they are, but it doesn't at all match with the land use map. The criteria that is written in the current chapter, which says a primary dwelling unit every 2 acres, and there's some, the conservation zone is more than 2 acres.
The land use designations is to a maximum of one every 2 acres, to a maximum.
A maximum of 1.
So a zoning code can be written to anything short of or more than, you could say 1 every 5 acres, 1 every 7 acres, 1 every 12 acres. It's a maximum of 1 every 2 acres. You couldn't go beyond 1 every 2 acres.
I do understand that. I used to be on the town board.
No,
I
I
was the town supervisor. You really don't have to explain all this to me like that.
Keep this
My point
constructive
is that the conservation zone currently is 1 every, I think it's 5, it might be 7 acres. It's 5.
It's 5, which
Okay.
complies with the designation. 5 acres is 1 every 5 acres is less than 1 every 2 acres. This says anything 2 acres or less, or 1 every 2 acres or less.
It says less than 1 primary dwelling per 2 acres.
Right, so if you have one house, one dwelling, 5 acres, you comply.
Correct.
That is a weird way to write that.
We can change the verbiage to be more
mathematically.
clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the
And
You
then,
might be in agreement on that, but the way it's written is
but it's not
confusing,
just the,
and
the,
getting that clarification. would be-
the area per unit, it's also, you know, the other things that are allowed to be done and what has to be looked at. And it has to do with steep slopes, and it has to do with being right along the lake. And they don't at all apply to the other areas in the upland part of the town. So I fail to understand why we can't have a future land use map that's kind of looks a bit like the old one in those areas and recognizes that those are special districts that we want to protect in a certain way because of their unique features, which would be shown if we had any steep slope or any kind of physical maps in the plan, which we do not right now, that showed that we actually considered those things. So I really just don't understand why, maybe legally it's okay, but why you want to express with a visual that those things are the same in all those parts of the town, because they are not. And it disturbs people clearly.
Can I ask Carl or Karen a question? Or Niels, you might know, or Matt. What's shown there, each of those individual parcels, are those already homes? Are there any undeveloped areas that are shown in the low density residential?
No.
So those are
There
already-
might be a vacant lot
There-
or two
there-
among there, but they are all already homes. that
So they
there.
are already homes, which is what
Yes.
we're recognizing on a
And they've
land
been-
use map, which is different than a zoning map.
Right.
I know of one lot where there was long a cottage that was deteriorating, and the cottage was removed probably 2 years ago, and I thought there was an intent to build, but I don't know.
It's still vacant. It is and stuff. But
Yeah,
but essentially, they have been there, and what I set out this morning to try and get a feel for the town, the bulk of these splits along all the roads were done between 1950 and 2000. So this was here long before zoning got
Right.
serious about what could be done and not done. But I do recognize that, sort of, to me at least, the value of the lake shore and the conservation zone showing up as their own entities and that. And I think it would calm a lot of the public reaction if we were to be able to do that. To leave those two as two designated specific areas. They kind of fit with your idea of neighborhoods or whatever this, what are they called? Placemaking or something sort of like that.
Yeah.
It's not that the people are ever going to get together and agree on anything, but I think physically placemaking sort of fits those two specific areas. That's sort of my slant on this. But I've been doing a lot of digging into all the divisions through the town, and the bulk of what's divided up in this town has been there for at least 25 years, in some cases closer to 75 years.
Okay, so your recommendation is to,
Recognize those two specific areas, the lake shore and the conservation zone, just there was a lot of effort put into creating those. And I think visually, if they still show up in the map, I think a lot of the objections to the map will back off.
How would you change the underlying land use of that? What would be different from what's reflected in the?
Well, the reality for the lake shore is, out of the roughly 200 homes, there's only about 50 of them that actually conform to the one house per 2 acres. The rest, because they were created in the 1930s through 1950s, they're as small as less than a quarter acre and that sort of stuff. And you're not going to change that. A few that are left that are big that size are going to stay the way they are. And the zoning already has a lot of detail in it for the lake shore, and the same thing for the conservation zone. I realize it's separate from the land use part of it, but I don't see us as a town trying to make any effort to change any of that. It seems to be working.
And I'm just asking for clarification purpose. So if we were to make an amendment, we can change the color. so that it sets this off and we can
Have it
change.
look like the one we have now, that has two
Exactly.
colors.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We can change the color,
Back
certainly.
to, you can make it look like we have now, which worked, which we had that, and then the zoning changes reflected that comprehensive plan map.
Yeah,
Yes.
so, or I'd love. if-
So the question
You're
is,
getting back to the definition of the density, like low density
What's the- yeah,
residential. and
right,
that sort of
exactly.
stuff.
This is, again, this will take 0 seconds to just go on, hover over it, click it, turn it blue and green. The language in the comprehensive plan is gonna say, this is a Lakeshore District, this is a conservation district. These districts are aimed at, we can just draw the language directly from the zoning, which talks about, these are special areas. There are special natural resource concerns around them. In the zoning district, it says one says 1 unit every 5 acres, one says 1 unit every 7 acres. Is that what this committee would prefer to see in the plan?
Does that sound like that solves or goes in the direction of solving what we're talking about for you, Roxanne?
Yeah, and I mean, there's
Okay.
language in the current comp plan, which
Yeah,
is what we
okay.
use to
Well,
make the
that's
zoning,
wonderful.
so
So
there's lots
what
of
about-
places to find word.
It's good that we have the language that exists. Any other comments? Do you feel, Carl?
No, I'm fine
Said
with that.
that.
Yeah, I think
agrees?
just for those 2 specific areas. Yeah.
Caitlin?
I would even suggest not using the word district per se, because I think it's better to note what is unique about those areas in the town, and you could do the low density, because I actually don't think the density needs to change based on what's being proposed, in my personal opinion. Because the fact remains is that that is in a highly already developed existing area. And so we can anticipate based on a review of the last 30 years of building permits related to those properties. I think we have a pretty good sense of what's going to continue to happen. There will be periodically houses that are demolished and rebuilt, frequently using the same footprint effectively because of how close they are to the shore. That's a very common pattern here because of DEC regulations and New York State regulations. So I think it may even be worth keeping it with the same density as discussed, because it doesn't seem to contradict what our current zoning is. And then noting specifically, pulling out the notations about the steep slopes and access, to the shoreline and to the water sources. So I think that's important to note, but I wouldn't necessarily use district, because where I don't want to see this map go, and where I think there is public confusion, that this is not a zoning map. The zoning map that's covered, right, is has to be legally passed. This is a future land use. And so it gets real, I don't want it to get mushy in the terminology to make it even more confusing for the public.
Yeah.
So I think just simply noting it, using different colors, noting it is probably a better way to go, so we don't.
Yeah, and these are all referred to as character areas, and so we would reference it in that same way. Just I was just looking at the town's zoning map here. Niels and I were having a hard time counting it really, but there's 15 designations, 15 zoning districts in the town map. So with the addition of 2, if we're talking about adding 2 here, and there's no special math, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, we'd have 10 character areas. And again, there's no special math there, except that the intent of the future land use map is to kind of paint a broader look at it. But I agree, there's clear public sentiment that why leave it up to chance? Why leave it up to guesswork? If we know what we want there, say what you want there. We can make those changes.
Okay, thanks. Any other comment or discussion on that particular topic? Roxanne, I know you have a list of things, but let me
Yeah,
just
other
check
people
around.
should
Yeah,
go,
let's,
for
yeah,
sure.
let me check around and we'll come back.
No worries.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Anything else on the land use section in particular? I'll tell you remind folks why the committee front loaded the land use conversation. It's just that we'd like to get an updated draft. There is what's coming together as a consolidated changes draft based on your feedback, based on public feedback we've received, we did not want to release that draft until these changes were made, because we recognize these as kind of very, very high intensity issues. So anyway, I guess if there are other land use considerations, I'd love if we could
So
follow.
were there other topics we needed to discuss? I mean, is this the point when we bring in the public comment on industrial use and stuff, or is that happen
can.
after?
Nope. Let's get at it.
So, yeah, there were some comments on the definition of, right, industrial, which ones apply, and I don't know how to resolve all that, but how do we want to handle some of those discrepancies?
It's the question. Yeah, the question is, I think the biggest question or the broadest question is, do you want to continue to have a future land use designation that identifies as industrial?
I would like to recognize that some activities that are currently going on in the town are considered industrial, and industrial can mean anything from processing, manufacturing, distribution. It includes warehouses. I think storage places are considered technically industrial, right? So I'm not against having industrial per se. If there's a word change we want to use or focus on light industrial, I don't think that I'm going to be fine for considering that, but I don't want to get rid of it completely. I think there are some opportunities for light industry that would support the plan of the comp plan, bring in jobs that will not disrupt the environment, will not consider a lot of noise, air emissions, the stuff that you normally think of industrial. That's where you go. Just noise, air pollution, water usage. There are a whole slew of activities that could fall under the term industrial without triggering those needs. So I'm not against it per se, but if we want to find a different term, manufacturing, production, I don't know.
So how we describe it and phrase it, and so
And
that it matches.
You have to be
What's
careful
really
when you say
happening.
industrial, because industrial means anything.
Yeah, I mean, there's light industrial, there's heavy industrial. So I mean, right now it's kind of lumped together.
So in the
We will
plan,
never have a power plant in this town.
Yeah, in the
It's
ki-
just not gonna happen.
in the
because of
character area
limitations,
description, it says light industrial and light manufacturing, assembly, commercial composting, lumber yards, cabinetry, furniture, woodworking, boat and automotive repair and storage, and junkyards, which we will talk about. But and then the opener just says the industrial land use designation is intended for uses that primarily light industrial and light manufacturing, not resource intensive, do not cause major pollution, do not disrupt human health and the environment.
And noise.
And noise, yeah, it's in there as well. Yeah, sorry, it's noise in there. Nope, it's not.
Well, put it
I did
in.
noise in light pollution too.
Yes, noise and light.
And to Liz's point, there are businesses that are currently operating in the town in the light industrial, we have a light industrial area. And we have businesses that are operating under those terminologies. I think it's important to reflect their business. But I think the light part is the important part. So I think that's great.
You also remind me, those industrial uses that exist today, are they in a pre-existing non-conforming situation, or is it which zoning districts currently provide for light industrial manufacturing?
Have the zones, we have the opposite technology mixed use zone that allows for industrial. There were some comments made earlier about a illegal non-conforming use. That's actually ironically a junkyard that was granted a use variance by the BZA, and also subsequently was also granted an extension to expand the use across the street. So it's not illegal. It was actually granted by the.
Can you provide the public with the record on that BZA variance?
It's actually something that's been before town court and town board, so they can get that information, but I can provide that to either Liz or Caitlin to provide that.
And that happened subsequent to the change in zoning of prohibited junkyards,
It was back in the 70s.
then it's not applicable because the law says that anything prior to this change in
BZA
2019.
variants,
All
not to
right,
get into
guys,
the
this
debate.
is
Okay,
not a
so-
discussion point, just
sorry.
to clarify.
So just so,
I just have a hard time with false information coming from our planner, I'm sorry.
But
I
it's
no,
guess-
no,
not,
so I
Whoa.
appreciate what you're saying,
Let's-
and Sarah, I see your hand coming up, but just to be clear, my understanding is that we are discussing this as a committee. We respect and appreciate your comments. You could submit them via email, you can come to the next meeting, you can talk to us after this meeting, but this particular time in this discussion is supposed to just happen with committee members with your attendance and attention, and we appreciate that.
I apologize.
Sorry, no, it's okay. But just so we can carry on, but please don't think that we don't want to hear that, like, we'll find another time to hear that input.
so.
So if
Yeah.
you,
We're
Are we
talking
changing the
about-
name? I guess the title. Light industry,
Oh, yes.
light
industry.
manufacturing.
It's just two areas. I mean, it seems to me like
Well,
We
under
should-
technically under how we.
we're talking about the purple areas, aren't we?
Yes,
There's
but
just two
under-
of them.
But in the write-up,
Uh-huh.
it says Cuba Compost, PS Excavating, Perry City Automotive, Mike Marine, and Mike Moore's Marine.
Right, but those aren't currently
That's-
indicated on the map.
Right, but I'm just saying that's maybe
industrial.
we should.
So it doesn't match what's written with the map. That's one thing. So another thing is that I would like to have it be called something else, and I absolutely do not think what is currently a junkyard near a wetland and a stream in a very rural area should be any of those things. It's what it is. We can get more legal information later, but in the future, I don't think in that area, we want something else like that there. So I think that should be removed, absolutely. And the whole 118 acres or so, that's the parcel that Cuba Compost is on. Cuba Compost is only on like a very small portion of that. The rest is woods and fields and all. And so I just don't quite understand I think maybe we need a different designation, but maybe we need it to blend more with, I mean, all the rest around there is medium density housing, or the red, which is what, commercial mixed use. Maybe we should make more commercial mixed use there, and that's what that is. But it's not an industry. I just don't think making one parcel of the whole future land use map an industry makes sense. Even if you change the name of it, it's one targeted place. It's not cohesive with anything else, except that there's a compost facility on a very small portion of that parcel right now.
so if your intent was to limit industrial use to something, certainly non-intrusive and ecologically sound, then incorporating as part of a mixed use designation, showing commercial mixed use as inclusive of light industry is a way to do that, and then follow on with zoning that says if you want to operate light industrial uses within the commercial mixed use district, here are the design guidelines that go with that. And then, to your point, you would never intentionally zone something that was ecologically sound or ecologically critical to be adjacent to a heavy industry, certainly. So that's a way to do it. You could retitle and reclassify industrial as light industrial, and think about other places on the map that make sense for that to line up. Again, recognizing that even light industry needs to be served by transportation corridors and water and sewer and those kinds of things.
Which Indian Fort Road is not.
Please.
But is that a solution that works? Is that, Diane, did you want to add something?
Yeah, it just seems curious that we have these two just properties, right, that have this special. So, wondering about, is that typical? Were we just trying to be reflective of what was existing? But like, aren't we supposed to be trying to think about what we want in the future? So, it seems like, it feels like a backslide. And then like the character of Agard Road is residential or agricultural. So like changing it to, what'd you say, like mixed use maybe is also not going in the right direction. So like what happens to a business like that that is existing, you know, like what is a solution that for something like PSP excavating?
So nothing happens to it because this doesn't change the zoning. And when you change the zoning, you have to change it to conform with this. So let's say we pulled out that purple and just, you know, blended it with what's around it, right? And just said, okay, that's the district we're going, that's the character area we're going for. And then you change the zoning to conform with that character area. It would be a pre-existing non-conforming use and would go on, you know, until it failed to meet that characterization, that designation. So in terms of what happens to the person sitting on the lot today, nothing. In terms of what happens when that concern wants to sell its property or do something different when it's property, that's when you start to get sticky.
Well, and to that point too, I think we need to have that logical intersection of is it likely to return practically to the use that we were prescribing to it. There are properties that if it's been in light industrial use for, I mean, think about, we're trade designers, right, on 196. We could zone that out from underneath them or put them on the future land use map and then future zone them out as agricultural. Is it realistic that that building will be torn down and that land will be converted to agricultural? It doesn't mean you can't zone it for agricultural, but I think in a future land use map, we should be charged with looking at what is practical. When a house is constructed, it's probably not going to be demolished realistically in the near future to be converted to agriculture. So recognizing that houses exist in agriculture, I think is important. So I think that we should be looking at this with a degree of practicality also. It's not just wishful thinking of what in an ideal world we would have. We also have to consider what we currently have and what's likely to continue existing and what we want to incentivize and what we want to discourage, and then finding a balance between those things.
That was my real problem with the 2009 future land use map that painted everything green. You know, it totally ignored all the housing, water district, everything else that was there. And I have no idea why it got that way, but it's history. I just don't want to see that repeated in the current one.
So what say you all relative to industrial?
So commercial mixed use. We have some multifamily dwellings, not residential uses. Oh, so no residential. It's Teganic, the Inn at Teganic Falls, Stover Lumber, New Park. I mean,
The commercial mixed use, it's a range of
I would be fine if we mix commercial and industrial.
Just essentially eliminate the industrial and just add those areas to commercial mixed use.
Right.
Because it's.
But the keying that there's still light, we can bring in the language regarding light industrial in the commercial mixed zone.
Yes, so as it reads today, it says a range of multi-unit dwelling units and non-residential uses such as retail, food establishments, entertainment, office, professional services, commercial storage, clinics, automotive services, etc., but not of a heavy industrial or heavy manufacturing nature. So we would, we could insert, industrial and research type uses, and then in the design considerations, go on to talk about non-intrusive in the areas of noise, light, ecological, natural resource preservation, those kinds of things. Air, yes, all water, air, sound, traffic, exactly. So now pull back and look at each of these districts character areas, and remind yourself that that this is future, that this is, that again, not only land use designation or zoning drives market, so the likelihood of industrial happening out here, the likelihood of a town board even zoning anything for or permitting any kind of industrial out here would be far fetched. And so, looking at those existing commercial mixed use designations, is everybody okay with amending that language and leaving those designations where they are?
Any further conversation?
I was just trying to think of, no,
Oh,
that's not, what's the,
That's red? Are we talking about what's currently red on that map?
Yes. Those are
that
the
is
areas.
ours,
By mail.
or is that the fire? I can't see that, so don't worry.
And so, like, to Roxanne's point, out here, I would allow zoning to prevail and say, we're not going to allow, presuming that stands up, that might actually get changed, but we're not going to allow any manufacturing use within 1,000 feet of the lake, right? Or of a recognized body of water, right? You can put that right in your zoning code and be completely justified.
So could you say what exactly, like there's that little red square way out there near Mayo Road in the rural residential and agriculture? What is that?
That's the fire and
casualty.
Okay.
So that's commercial mixed use. It's there now, but even if the building changes, they're probably not gonna tear the building down, even if fire casualty leaves. But you could make zoning in there. You need to probably not be, that would be spot zoning if you distinguish that zoning right there as something different.
Right.
So ultimately, the zoning district kind of fall within and provide the restrictions of what can be done in the future.
I do not think the purple square on Indian Fort Road should be converted to commercial mixed use.
Well, yes. Well, so one of the recommendations we would typically make is to take these purple areas. What is it surrounded by? What is it surrounded by? And does it make sense to just apply that district to what it's surrounded by? Right. So turn this orange, not red.
I think we have to recognize that the compost facility does occur there because it does produce smells. There might be some more traffic. I'm not saying it's a nuisance by any means, but there are. And I think we have to recognize that. I didn't know it's a portion of the property, but we're looking at parcels right now. So we're not piecemealing any other parcel, I don't think, into multi-zones or multi-character uses. Character areas.
character areas.
Oh, that's not actually true.
No?
The grassroots property is 2 different parcels that constitutes it's used as a single property.
Okay.
So that might be true from that standpoint, but there's the across the way property is designated between business and residential.
So let's, a scenario for you, which everybody loves hypotheticals. So 15 years from now, before the town gets back around to a full rewrite, we turn this thing, I'm totally colorblind, we turn this thing green, whatever's around it. And the manufacturer that's on site or the processor that's on site today closes. If you had a genie and a magic wand, would you put another composter in there? Or would you do something different with the site? This future land use map is more heavily weighted toward what we would prefer to see there in the future, informed by market, informed by infrastructure, informed by other things.
It's an automotive repair shop out there now.
Right.
Yeah.
Is what it has been since, I guess, the 1970s.
Mm-hmm. So if it closed and went away, would you prefer to see some type of light manufacturing out there? Would you prefer to see that converted to some farm operation? Would you prefer to see some small retail out there? What would you prefer to
There's
see?
no water.
Yeah.
So it's going to be limited in what can be done. And there is sensitive natural resources right there, so that further limits what can be done there. I don't know if anybody will tear that area down and seed it with, for an agricultural land use. I
Right.
don't see that happening either.
Yeah.
So it's probably gonna be another commercial type use.
So then, you know, leveraging zoning to protect against what type of use it could be, right?
Because it's not even covered as a development district, is it?
I mean, what I've heard, I think that maybe is helpful to be reiterated, is that the land use map does not have to reflect exactly what is there now. But we should consider what's there now as what the probabilities are that it would change or should change in the future.
Allison, did you want to add something?
I agree with Carl. I really like how you like framed that of I know I'm gonna get my terminology wrong, but to protect, to change that color of the lake. I think that is important, and that is so much of what our concerns are coming. I also agree the purple, I have a hard time just making that medium density because PNS is out there. I mean, that's a family business. I have a hard time imagining that going away, and it's there.
Maybe it's worth discussing the practicality of if a designation was changed, what impact would it have on anyone who is currently there who doesn't comply? Would they automatically be grandfathered? Is there some legal step that need to be taken to ensure that? I mean,
Great questions, and distinguishing again between zoning and land use. If you don't do anything to the zoning moving forward with that, which you're not compelled to do, by the way, when you update, although your comprehensive plan encourages it, do nothing with the zoning and nothing changes. The building, you change this, that agriculture, this future land use designation to agriculture, that business, and don't change the zoning at all. That business closes, changes hands, sells, everything stays the same. We're all good. If you rezoned it, if it was agriculture and you rezoned it to agriculture, someone said out from under, right? Rezone it out from under them, then depending upon what the laws of the town say, there's a provision for pre-existing non-conforming use that typically requires that it remain in operation semi-continuously without going dormant for some period of time. What's the town law say? Niels?
Well, preface this that it doesn't matter. I mean, town law says 2 years.
2 years.
But courts federally all the way up and down have consistently argued for the landowner. So it doesn't matter if a municipality says that a use becomes non-conforming after X time period. Courts have consistently, time and time again, upheld that if they have no intent to change it, it doesn't matter. So it's a moot point.
Yeah. Cool. My question was more about continuous use inside of the 2 years. Same. Okay. All right. Well, we've got to make a decision on 2 things. It sounds like there's consensus that wrapping industrial into commercial mixed use is a viable solution. See heads nodding. Okay.
Not for the portion on Indian. I'm opposed to the one on Indian Fort Road.
So just quickly to
It's
say,
not wrapped into any other. It's not even near it. It's
well, quickly
just
to
out.
say that I'm not suggesting that we turn the purple red.
I'm
What
talking about Indian Fort Road.
I'm not
which
suggesting
is-
we turn any purple red. I'm suggesting that
Oh, okay.
we're going to do away with the industrial color. That's coming off. The decision is what goes where these purples are today. That's the question that we're asking you now.
Oh, I thought it was gonna become the one that's the red color, isn't that what we were talking?
We're merging the group for the discussion in the narrative. We're mixing the industrial,
but
pulling
not-
it into commercial. There's 2 properties of industrial up on the map that we have to decide what those are gonna be colored as.
Right, but like say you changed, I'm just confused, I'm sorry, the Indian Fort Road one
Mhm.
to green, the way the rest of it is.
Mhm.
It's very rural over there and near a stream and wet. And then, but you're gonna have language that could be commercial
No.
mixed
Yeah.
use?
No,
It becomes,
no, no,
the
no.
designation then becomes
Right
green.
now, it's not specifically called out anywhere in the narrative. That property is not called out in the narrative.
It is,
We're
it's
gonna
called out as industrial in the narrative that's in here now.
So what will happen?
I'm just not
It's-
understanding,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So what will happen? Let's
Forget-
just
We're
use
getting
an
rid of the
example.
industrial.
Yeah, let me
Right.
just use the example.
And then you're changing those properties to another color, but you were
What-
talking about them fitting with commercial mixed use,
Yeah,
I
so
thought,
the
which
use,
is red.
the
yes.
use will migrate. So now let's turn this green, because we said we're gonna turn it green.
Mhm.
We had said, you didn't say
Well,
that.
I'm
I
just,
said
use
that.
it as
Yeah.
an example.
We're gonna turn this green. Industrial. The comprehensive plan will now no longer reference the future use as industrial in this area. There's an existing going concern there, so that's going to continue to operate until that landowner decides they don't want to operate, or until the town zones it and goes to court and figures it out,
Mhm.
according to
I
Neil,
get that.
right? According to the history of the courts. But for the purposes of the comprehensive plan, this thing has nothing to do with industrial anymore. It just reads exactly the way the green reads in the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
If you decide to turn that green, similarly, if you decided to turn that orange. And future industrial endeavors with half the land somewhere, presuming the zoning change.
Oh, in the existing red color that you
Exactly, that's
have.
correct, yes.
Okay, that's what I thought you were talking about changing
No,
those
no,
to red.
sorry about that.
So
Sorry.
why are we
Confused.
proposing expanding the definition of the commercial to include industrial? Like, what would be the benefit? Like, I'm looking at, is that Organic Farms? Is that the red that's?
Yes.
Why would we want to say, and also you could do industrial here in
Again,
addition?
it's not zoning.
I know, but it's.
If there's
it's
gonna be
saying There's an
rules.
intention to allow
Right.
for that.
It's an
right?
intention.
It already says that right now.
Right, so that's
In
right,
the-
now you put
in
a
the
junkyard
definition
out.
of
In commercial
commercials,
mixed use
Yeah.
has all the industrial already. So why
has
would
There's a
some
lot of it.
industrial and covers certain things that are industrial.
I'm just asking, why would we add more language to expand that? What would be the motivation for us to do that?
Well, some members felt like light manufacturing is a positive use for the community. Right now, light manufacturing is not listed as one of the uses in the mixed use commercial designation. So the question was, you incorporate light manufacturing as a potential use in the commercial mixed use, which I thought we had consensus on, but maybe not.
If it doesn't affect the property owner out there on Brook Road to continue operating as they've been for 40 or 50 years, you know, I think just putting that little area green or, you know, and recognizing we have a existing non-conforming business out there that's going to continue as long as it decides to continue. And just leave that area as green without that one purple spot in it. And then take cubic compost, that big section in there, and make it light, what is it? Commercial mixed use. And so both of those,
So make it red?
yeah, it would become red, just like Stover lumber across 96. And recognize it as, you know, the business that it is. And you know, they use other parts of the land to put stuff on.
Sorry, Carl, I wasn't waving
No.
to you.
I wanted to actually piggyback. I don't have a problem per se with making that part of Brook Road green, but given what I bet is our collective understanding of the current use of that property and the many, many cars that through a state permit are allowed to be there, among other things. If we turn it into, if we say that the intended use, stop being what you are, your next use needs to be agricultural and the limits of agricultural. what my concern, and so, well, it's not a concern per se, well, it actually is a concern, but I'm gonna throw this out, is there any likelihood a farmer is going to buy it, remediate it, and use it for agricultural land?
Definitely not.
No. And it's going to be expensive to clean up. That property will be expensive at some point to clean up. And are we creating an unintentional consequence of a place that no one will ever buy and clean up? Because there's no actual, like, as a business owner, would you actually invest in? So I'm not saying we don't do it, but I think we should be mindful that that's an actual real life consideration that the town might have to put effort into finding brownfield remediation funds for and a bunch of other things. So I'd like to throw that out there because we would want to create an incentive that it never changes from what it currently is. And I think most people would probably agree. It'd be nice to see it as something else.
But people, as another scenario, it's agricultural all around it. Maybe if they owned the agricultural land and it's along a creek and there's a wetland, they might decide to purchase it as just part of it being good for the agricultural land around it. Maybe they don't want to actually grow something on it. It's a pretty small thing. And I went back and read a lot of the brownfield stuff, and I didn't dive into it in detail, but one of the really important things that they seem to ask on the applications to get money for brownfields is what is the future use that you want? And so you're looking at a map that's agricultural all around it when they look at our comp plan, and you're saying, I want it to still be industrial or something because that's what we have. So if you said, oh, I want to clean it up so it could be a wetland, a little bit of a park, a place people could walk, a thing adjacent to agricultural, that might be more likely to get you money than putting it in the middle of an agricultural field, something else. So I mean, I can see it going both ways, and I just don't see saying that we want something intensive there when you drive down that road, when you look at that.
To a certain extent, the trees are taken over already on the left-hand side of the road there, on the west of Brook Road.
Some of them up to cars, yes.
Yes, they've been there that long. They're not small trees. They're like 6 to 8 inch trees growing up through junk vehicles. So some of these things haven't moved in a long time. Okay, to your concern, if we change it green and it disappears into the landscape, does that potentially cause problems for the town or anything like that? It certainly would remove the one contention issue out of the land use map. And to get to a final land use map, things that we can make disappear, I think are probably worth doing.
I hate to make that proclamation one way or the other on the fly. I mean, my inclination would be that this business is going to operate in its current form for as long as it, like to your point, it chooses to operate. That's not going to change the landowner's situation. I think that the town's position would be largely neutral on it. So I don't see anything strongly one way or the other. It's easy to change the color in a map. It's a lot harder to clean up that property.
Can you ever, I mean, the 100-acre parcel, like to make that whole thing red seems also a little questionable and concerning. Can you do a part of a parcel?
Are you talking about this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, again, just reinforced. We haven't said we're turning purple red. We're definitely not doing that in every case or even in this case. So absolutely, there's no rule. I'll say this, there's no comprehensive planning rule that says these districts must be broken by property line. So you can carve it in half, carve it in fourths, however you want to do it, and change it whichever color. A natural approach, again, would be to kind of, just like you're talking about down here, to kind of look at what's happening around it in terms of what the designation might be. My question back out here is maybe to the supervisor's point into a likely reuse scenario for the not fun use that's happening out there right now. Does tying it back to this make any sense? This neighborhood mixed use zone there that's adjacent to it. instead of turning it green, turn it blue. Again, apologies.
So that's a range of allowable non-residential uses to support those communities, including live workspaces. These areas are primarily located in or adjacent to hamlet or. So that's retail, food establishment, office, service. What kind of examples or recommended primary uses there?
So I'm sorry.
With the residential density being less than or equal to 30 dwelling units per acre. That's what the blue is. Like, how is that ever possible? You said that these things shouldn't be wishful thinking. And I don't understand the blue over there in Waterburg at all. Like, how possibly would we ever have 30 minimum dwelling units per acre? There's no sewer, there's never going to be there. I just don't understand that. And so, no, I don't think the blue should get extended down Indian Fort Road.
So I mean, you're kind of arguing the supervisor's point on the purple, which is, you know, absent some significant public sector intervention, this site is likely to continue in its current use forever. So it's about, not forever, but for a long time. So it's about kind of what you would prefer to see there versus what is likely to happen is a way to look at it. So I was just literally going down this scale and saying, well, you know, it's industrial now, low density residential. There's nothing around there that's pointing to that in the current scenario. Medium, same. It's a stretch from medium density. So the next use down was neighborhood residential. And again, the headline is 30.
Do you mean
but that's
neighborhood mixed use?
neighborhood mixed
Yes.
use.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Because I don't understand how that was arguing the point that Caitlin was
So what you
making.
said
My
is-
point is that
What you
it's,
said is why would, this could never happen.
yeah,
And what Caitlin is saying is, this could never be agriculture.
no, that's not the same thing. That, what I said as another alternate scenario for the purple that could never be agriculture, yeah, somebody coming and growing crops on it, maybe, okay. But agricultural property around it that somebody buys, they want to hold that, and it's along a wetland and a stream. Maybe you try to remediate it if you choose to be a place that can be, that person wants public access, other people could have public access. You might be able to argue that there. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. The blue point that I was making is extremely different. It's that it's talking about horizontal and vertical elements with a Main Street vernacular, residential density less than or equal to, so minimum, right, 30 dwelling units per acre. The concept picture in there is like a brownstone somewhere. I mean, that is Waterburg. I mean, if anybody drives there, that's not going to happen there. It's absolutely impossible. It's not that somebody wouldn't grow agriculture on a tiny property. It's just absolutely impossible. There's no sewer. There's no way to put that kind of density on those properties.
Well, and I don't
It's two
want to
different
nit
points.
again. I don't want to nit again, but for the folks watching at home or who might watch this recording later or read the minutes later, it's not a minimum of 30 acres or 30 units per acre. It's a maximum of 30 units per acre. You may have just misspoken, but it's a maximum of 30 units per acre. And that, you know, the characterization is that it's mixed use, not
Wait,
intended to be a
do we
single family
have-
residential.
I mean,
neighborhood.
less than neighborhood mixed use, commercial mixed use, do we have to provide residential?
Not if you don't
Densities?
want to.
No, I tried to argue that weeks ago.
I mean, those, to me, I know we have mixed use in there, but to me, those are primarily residential areas.
Like I mentioned
Outside
before,
of-
some
Could you
municipalities
explain
go
to me,
through
Matt, the
a lot of
notation that you're
detail,
using?
like-
Wait, let's have one conversation at a time over
Very
here. So Niels is talking, if we could just focus on this one thing at a time here, so.
What I mentioned in last year is some municipalities will have several residential districts, and they'll go through a lot of minutia of saying, you know, can't intent is for this land use designation to have a dwelling unit per acre, just one.
Yeah.
Right? They'll have another one that'll say 1 to 2 dwelling units per acre detached, meaning you can only have 2 detached dwelling units. They'll go through another minutia of saying 2 dwelling units per acre, that implies duplex. They'll go through a lot of minutia. You don't have to have up to or less than so many dwelling units per acre.
I'm just wondering if that, because we intend one of the action plans is to do a housing study, right? I mean, I feel like we should leave this density to that discussion or that, I'm not trying to kick the can down the road a little bit, but I am. Should wait for that housing needs study to come before we start placing residential densities. My opinion.
Once you do it, you can always amend the comp plan to reflect that.
Right.
Is there anything in Waterburg other than houses?
Not right. Is that Terry? No, not in Waterbury.
don't think
No, I
so.
don't think there's anything in there that.
I've driven through there several times and other for a couple half-acre lots and slightly bigger lots and that sort of stuff. I think that whole corner in there is just straight housing.
Yeah.
Well, I agree that, I mean, I think that if there are gonna be limits, it should be something that's practical and that we could see in the future to, Roxanne's point, like imagining 30 units of 1 acre is a little out of character for, So, I mean, if it's practical, that makes sense. I know we wanna, be able to be flexible, but.
I could imagine though, if someone wanted to, I mean, if it became mixed, even if the future land use map shows the mixed uses that's reflected here, I actually think that's really nice. There's a sense of community that exists there that exists in Jacksonville. But if somebody wanted to open a small coffee shop or, a coffee stand or something like that, that to me in that neighborhood seems totally appropriate. If, and I would.
Or a
hate-
duplex or
Right.
residences over the coffee shop or.
So I think that overall, when we surveyed the community, there were a few things that stood out, right? Agricultural protection and a diversity of housing options. In my opinion, it is smarter to consolidate new housing in areas where there is already housing density as opposed to pushing it out into the agricultural zones. And doing that, I would like to see incentivizations through our land use, through our eventual zoning that encourages more density in pre-existing neighborhoods that are already built. Waterburg happens to be one of those. Would it be the worst thing for Ulysses if we had duplexes in there? Now, I'm not saying it's gonna happen next year. I'm not gonna say it's happening 10 years from now, but maybe it happens 20 years from now. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I'd like to see that in Jacksonville also. So I'm in favor. I will come out quite clearly. I'm in favor of keeping the blue here because I do think we're planning for 20 years from now. And it makes sense to encourage development in these locations for housing markets.
Well, there's a 4-unit apartment at the end of Brook Road.
Sure is.
Reading. And another one up there on Mayo that's a twin sister to it.
There's one in Cold Springs also.
Yeah.
Yep.
So just quick time check at 7 PM, Roxanne.
I completely agree with what you said, Caitlin. I wasn't even speaking about Jacksonville. I'm saying that the way this is written doesn't make any sense for the character. 30, I mean, I think,
That's why we're.
I know, I've argued that for a long time. And I completely agree that getting rid of some of these things that say crazy things like 30 dwelling units as a maximum in that area, that should go away. It doesn't make any sense. And it's not within the character of Ulysses. It's not even in Jacksonville, but it's definitely not in Waterburg. So was my point. The way this is currently written is completely unrealistic to that.
But
I don't know if it's
but I think in
unrealistic, but I
fairness,
think
it
it's-
was written as maximum. I mean,
But it's unrealistic as a maximum, so it should be taken out. You can't possibly put that stuff there. There's no septic, there's no sewer. You can't do it.
So what would be a realistic?
I don't know.
I think we should just get rid of the residential density.
If I may,
And wait for
if I may,
the,
not
yes,
to go
yes.
down too much, but if you, simple math, there's 40 43,560 square feet per acre. So if you divide that by 30, you get just under 1,500 square feet. You can easily put a house on a 1,500 square foot lot. So if you wanted to do 2 on that, you wouldn't be able to do that. Right, so just look at numbers for what they actually are.
And no, right, I mean, to your point, I think to your point, the laws of physics today would not allow you to actually put 30 units on 1 acre. But to Niels's point, what 30 units per acre, a maximum of 30 units per acre equates to is we would, under this, the town could adjust its zoning to allow for a lot size of 1,500 square feet. As small as 1,500 square feet.
And so that wouldn't be in conflict with the health department regulations?
They just need septic.
Yeah, they need, and
If it's
water,
engineered, they can do that. Yeah.
if what's engineered.
If the septic system is engineered in a way that allows them to say yes, they can do that. Yeah.
It's possible to have a septic system for a large facility.
No, I mean, the whole house and everything with the septic field and everything and can be on 1,500 square feet.
So you could cluster the division and use
Yeah, you can have a single.
shared septic, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
There's lots of opportunities for that.
The Elgin Pod method too is really revolutionary septic systems and you make them, I put it with myself. Or I did
You
not.
put it in.
Or
I gotta watch
yeah.
that.
We did Elgin Pod and it was engineered.
So to a more global question that it sounds like there's some agreement on, just want to make sure we're capturing where I start to see some consensus. Removing explicit statements of density in these districts. Everybody's okay with that?
I would recommend that for right now, but I'm open to other thoughts.
Agree with that.
Yeah, it takes the zoning flavor out of it.
Right, exactly. Yep.
I like that description.
Does it make sense to tie it to the future plan and like revisit things?
I think that's one of the
That's one of the
goals.
zoning goals, yeah.
So one of the, if we could amend the goal.
And
I can't
similarly,
find it
to Carl's point, the very next piece in there talks about, in each of these character areas, talks about designation of public and common open space and sets a target for that, giving the impression that a requirement would be X% of open space. And in fact, it says 25% is the minimum amount of open space in that district, right? And so, or publicly common open space, right? Not per lot, but just publicly accessible. And so that has a zoning flavor too. You can make that shine in the narrative and the design consideration without giving it a number and then implying that it's a zoning reference.
So there's a LRP 1.1.6 is that develop a housing action plan, provide resources to encourage housing options, including missing middle housing. We can add on to that to tie and consider in appropriate density, residential densities in future zoning or something. We can add that there to tie that up. If you think that works.
Yeah, what does the process for that look like? I mean, is that an amendment to this plan and how does that?
The housing
Does it go
action
through
plan?
planning or something?
The housing action plan?
Yeah, but like if you're adding those to these definitions, or would that not happen?
If we were good to go back and amend the comp plan after we have the housing action plan, then yeah, the town board would have to amend it. It could get deferred down to the planning board and BZA for review. I'd imagine we would. And then the town board would approve the amendment. That's what Appendix F is.
It's part of what Appendix F is.
I don't know. Okay.
So
So
we've got an open question.
Yes.
And the open question is what to do with these areas previously designated as commercial. What land use designation would you place on this and this? Can't tell if that's-
So those are the two.
Yeah, this and this.
I vote for Brook Road, maybe just make it green, match the rest of the area.
Is anyone who lives immediately around these areas or the property owners themselves currently offered any specific written opinions about it?
Do we know?
Not for the comp
Yes.
plan now. We had a ex-town board member who, he was in it, right?
Yes. Around the corner.
But
So
not
was there a
specifically to the comp
recommendation
plan.
from that person? Green or blue?
I don't know what he would recommend.
So I think this is one of the things that, I mean, my inclination would be go to blue, to be honest, just from a practical standpoint of what the perceived value of the land would be in the future land use. But that's me looking at it more from like a practical business side, but if the consensus is green, to me, it's not.
Just making.
My guess is at the end of 20 years, it's a little below it. You can't afford.
Right, but I do think if it was gonna go a different direction, it would be more likely to go more in the blue direction or even the red direction than in the green direction.
Well, should we
Yeah, and
just
I mean,
have a vote?
No, I
The
mean, when
blue
we
could
look at,
be the blue could be a farm stand. Somebody could buy that and put a farm stand
So
there.
could the
Right.
green.
there's a lot of,
But
it feels
that's-
like there's a
but
lot
I
of
know, but
variables. that go into
There's
this,
a lot of
like-
things you could do. You can turn that into a coffee shop eventually. after
Like
you
the
do a lot of
gas
cleaning.
spill, you know, in Jacksonville and all the limitations that came upon that part of the land once that happened for years and years and years.
You won't be
like-
growing anything on this. for the
No,
next 100
but,
years.
but Roxanne's point of like, let it sit and be, like, that's the only thing that could happen in Jacksonville for like you can't even build houses on some of those properties because the ground is so polluted. So
Wait, you mean
in Jacksonville, I'm
Oh,
just like
I
thinking
wasn't
about,
talking about
I'm thinking about that.
Jack-
No, no,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
am.
okay.
I'm making a connection
I see.
between like
I
when
got
you
it.
have an issue like that, there you're really limited to what you can do. I know because I live right across the street from this in Jacksonville, so you know, what makes the most sense for that particular spot? I don't know. I think we should just let's pick what makes the most sense, not what we'd like to see what happen there. What really is realistic.
Just a
Well, we
quick,
have two proposals, so should we
yeah, I was gonna say,
vote
just
on
a quick
them?
straw poll. All those who would like to see it turn green. All right,
I mean, I think the way you ask it, I mean, I think a lot of us could say we want to turn green, but it's so unrealistic that it doesn't seem like it's the right thing to do.
let me rephrase my
Could argue
question.
it's equally
For all of
unrealistic
those
to
who
become
would like, for all of those who would like for the plan to reference this future land use designation as agricultural, raise your hand.
I mean, so I even feel like that, like it's nothing, neither of these things really make sense. It's what makes the most sense. And agricultural, when you describe it as like a park or something being absorbed by something surrounding it, that's what makes the most sense to me. So it's not like what I want or what I think is
Right,
gonna
shouldn't
be
be
the
doing
greatest
what we want.
thing in
Right,
that,
it's what
in that
makes
spot. It's like what's actually doable is really kind of nothing for a long time. If there's, you know, pollution to it.
Is that,
So
was
I'll
that,
make a final pitch on mixed use, which is there's very little land currently in the town that is, and this was changed in zoning in the future. There's very little land in the town where businesses can operate legally by zoning, which in and of itself makes that land more valuable and might have more demand. I would just, if you want to see a future where someone cleans this up, incentivizing it by making it land that could be valuable might be a way to do it. That's the only pitch I make. It's really from a business standpoint of like, who would buy this thing? I'm here to tell you that if it would be a real generous farmer to buy land and just let it sit there. Farmers don't typically do that.
Right.
I know farmers, that's not what they're doing when they buy land. They
But
put
it
to
can,
work.
but can it even happen with commercial? I mean, that's my point, is like, I've just seen sit empty in Jacksonville because of the pollution for many, many years, and it couldn't go either way.
And I don't know. I mean, I think that's data that we don't have at this point. So, I mean, I don't, in practicality, I don't think the color it will change the practical use of that property. in the foreseeable
Exactly.
future.
That's
Yeah.
Until we
right.
have the next purchaser.
Just needs to be cleaned up and be green for a
Yeah.
long, long time.
It does seem like it's an island.
It's relatively contiguous to the blue you've already got there.
Yeah.
And I'm not strong in one way or the other, just having it out there as a industrial use is probably not a good choice. Something's gonna do it.
The cleanup would cost millions of dollars. Nobody's gonna dig up
Which
10 feet of dirt.
Right,
and
no
get
matter
rid of it.
So to
Near a
your
wetland,
point, like
no
the
less,
cost, the
there's
cost
gonna
of a
be
cleanup,
more.
to Caitlin's vein there, absent the public doing it, absent the town doing it, which is an event, a possibility. There's grant funding and other things to support that. But absent the town doing it, a business interest to do it is how it gets cleaned up. So.
Right.
Business would have to have a lot of money.
Or be accessible for the brownfield cleanup program is at its core an economic development program. So it would.
That would be the only way.
Yeah.
And the brownfield would support either, I mean, being either agricultural, I know it doesn't help, but being either agricultural or neighborhood mixed use would be supported by the
It's
brownfield.
really its own unique thing, honestly. It's they're gonna be pending.
Which is why I feel like mixed use.
Right.
It kind of leans more towards the mixed use definition. But I'm not completely swayed one way or the other.
All right, there's been some solid argument, counter argument. Well, I'll ask the question in reverse this time. Who feels that the best future land use classification for this is neighborhood mixed use? 1, 2, 3.
Just with the business count.
Swivel. All right, so this map is not adopted tonight. It's not in rock, but this gives Jessica what she needs to change that parcel for now for future discussion. This parcel up here, and I love your point, it's a huge parcel. It's being operated in a diversity of ways now, sort of, or at least a bifurcated way. And so does it stay in that shape and girth, or do we bust it up? And either way, what's the underlying character area that goes there? It's surrounded by orange, sorry.
Yeah, I would suggest that we use the Google Earth mapping to help us understand how it's an active use now and split it along those lines between something and agricultural. Because a good chunk of that is an agricultural use now. I think it makes sense to continue that.
So we're gonna make it green?
But everything around it is mixed,
Is it
is the highest
agricultural?
residential density.
I have
And you can have an
a-
ag field in the middle of it.
That's what I would use the Google map to help differentiate where the breakdown happens.
So even though it's kind of surrounded by that medium density residential?
Or I mean, sorry, so I would make it whatever is currently being used, in my opinion, for light industrial we should designate it like that, and the rest of it should merge with the surrounding.
Got it. So commercial mixed use on the piece that's currently being operated in an industrial fashion, and medium density residential on the remainder of the property.
Because it is in half. It's cut in half.
And we can show that on a map using the Google Earth imagery, other field there.
All of that mixed density, all of that orange, what is the definition of that?
It's about 41 acres of that site.
Oh, you
Looks
mean
like-
the actual,
I'm just wondering how many, like,
right.
what's permitted?
So-
Like, because that could be,
There won't be any hint at residential density on this because we're stripping
mixed
that.
density.
But we will say, as it's laid out today, recommended primary uses are single detached dwellings, duplexes, attached townhomes, and accessory dwelling units. Designation is established to accommodate housing of a medium density scale, including missing middle housing, currently served or anticipated to be served by public water and/or sewer facilities. These areas are generally outside of a hamlet or a planned neighborhood node.
In a
So-
manufactured home park, right? This is
So that could be that could be encouraging a subdivision or something.
Yeah, a lot of density, and it's ag land right now.
So that it can match, but it would.
It's such an expansion,
Yeah.
dense housing, this map. Which we haven't talked about the orange yet. That's probably another meeting.
So Caitlin's got a proposal on the table. The proposal is to separate the block as currently laid out, the spot currently occupied by the composting operation would be commercial mixed use. The remainder of the parcel will go to medium density residential. Who among you, by show of hands, feels this is the right future land use designation for this parcel? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So we'll go there for now, and again, bring that back for consideration. All right, we've resolved the industrial question.
Good work.
So you got about 14 minutes on your regular schedule.
So yeah, our plan was to spend 30 minutes on this, but we're beyond that. But do we want to keep going for another, do we have another topic we can fit in the next, then end by 7:30, or are we done?
Is there another?
Does anyone?
I think there's a lot more things to talk about, but
Well,
maybe you can't finish them
yeah,
in
I
15
think
minutes. That's my,
Is there one-
if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
is there an item that we could discuss, or what can we, where do we go next in
Does
the
someone
next
have
15?
a fairly straightforward
14
concern?
minutes.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know if you'll think it's straightforward, but I think one that maybe you can talk about in 15 minutes is, and I've raised this multiple times before, so it's still my thought after reading all the input that people have given, but I feel like there's too many housing designations, like the rural residential and the low density residential. I don't understand why we need both of those. And I also think I understand that there's the concern that houses exist on these little parcels. So we're outlining these parcels because they probably won't knock them down and they're near agriculture. But I feel like that's a false designation, like in the southwest portion of the town there, it is very agricultural. And I just think that those things should be removed, not outlined as it. The real concern that I have is that we took out the designations of housing units we're taking it out of everything. But the concept, when whoever decided on this map did, as it was written, was one house per 20 acres. Okay, that has been discussed many times in this town and very badly rejected. I'm not saying I'm against it, but I'm saying agricultural people rejected that massively, large lot zoning. But at any rate, I think that maybe the concept when that was put out there was, okay, you'll try to keep those as 20 acres, minimums to really protect agriculture. But you already have those other little houses in there. But I think the same thing I've thought for all the years I've been involved in this, which is that we have to come up with a creative way to deal with trying to protect agriculture that farmers are going to consider as fair because it's their retirement and all, that is going to somehow be able to protect agriculture. And so you're going to have some housing there. And people have said all along, developing it all along the road frontages, just chopping it up like that with it behind it is not good. It's not good for agriculture, and it's not good because it's conflict, and it's not what ag and markets wants and all these things. But I think that, just trying to outline those and make them a whole different district land use designation that may become a district doesn't make any sense. And so it's a character area that is really rural and agricultural. And so I feel like all that lime green should not be in that area. And the other thing, and there's just an error which I think everybody can easily agree should be corrected in the writing of the description of the low density residential, which says that it's in areas, low density residential scale in areas generally outside Tompkins County Ag District 2. That is not outside Tompkins County Ag District 2. That is like core in Tompkins County Ag District 2, as is a fair amount of the other lime green, but that really it is. So like that, at least, if you're gonna leave it there, needs to be corrected because it is inaccurate. And I would argue, I'm suggesting that we consider taking it out of areas that are hugely agricultural like that. And not having so many housing. I know, but I don't understand. I'm so confused by this thought that just because a house is there, it's got to be a different land use designation now. Like in our agriculture, the reason that the map was drawn the way it is, why the zoning is still the way it is because for so many years, this town has gone through how we can possibly preserve agriculture, which is the goal that comes out of all the comp planning, out of everything, as something that's 70% or more people think is really important, but yet be fair to farmers and their ability to sell off some lots and everything else. It's extraordinarily complicated. And so we've left that area because a lot of it is agricultural. It's very low density. It's not had, it's in an ag district. It's kind of what people have said they want for the town in areas like that. And so we've left it as one thing where the goal is that you struggle to find zoning that can possibly make this work the best for everybody, for this town and everybody in this town. And so, okay, there's houses there. There may be more houses somewhere else in agriculture, but it's a unit area that I think it should just be recognized as such. I just think drawing that little outline of that, and then I think about the Appendix F, which I would like to talk about it another time, but like I'll just use the example of Reynolds Road because I know it well because I live there. There's on the south side of Reynolds Road, it's almost all drawn, the line is low density residential because there's some houses there. And then there's this one part in the middle, which is agricultural. And so if you did something with the ag zoning eventually that you felt best protected agriculture, what if it was large lot zoning 1 in 20 or something like that? The person who owns that piece of property probably going to come and want theirs taken out. You're going to have this constant iterative, well, right next to me, they can have 1 and 2 acres or something, and I can't have it for 20 acres or whatever you decide. They're so close together. The area is all the same. I just feel like it just sets up all this conflict, all this work for the town to constantly look at moving parcels on the land use map, future land use designation map. I don't think it helps focus towards what we really need to do, which is come up with a zoning eventually that really can best work for these goals that we have. I just think it's counter to it. And I would really like to see us not do that in that area, and perhaps also not that mid area there that's around Craft and Unnamed Street and all that, those are big parcels of land right now. Yeah, they might have a house on them, but that's just my pitch to that. That's my concern, and that it comes from many, many years of listening to discussions about this going around in an incredible amount of ideas and circles.
So the pitch is to eliminate the rural residential character area?
In parts of it. No, well, or maybe make a rural residential character area that's more cohesive, but in that southwest part of the town, eliminate that little outlined lime green, low density residential.
You're talking about Podunk, Paris City,
Yeah.
Reynolds,
all that corner, right? That whole area right there. Yeah, it's really rural. Just because those houses are there, some of those lots are larger and there's a lot around them. And I think it sets up a lot of conflict with people wanting to change their parcel because you've outlined their parcel, and then the parcel next to it can be something else potentially eventually. And I I think it sets up a lot of conflict and I don't think it's necessary to have two districts.
Yeah, so just to clarify, the definition said that it's generally outside Tompkins County Agricultural District 2. And for the benefit of the original draft, that's when, now things changed in this meeting. But the majority of lots that were designated low density residential were in the Lakeshore Conservation Zone. So most of that is outside Ag District 2. My recommendation, if you want to hear it, is for the areas mentioned on Ferry City Road, is maybe shifting that from low density residential to rural residential, which does allow for smaller ag uses, but the idea is that, you know, those areas are in Ag District 2, so this is an Ag District 2. But they are still primarily already developed as a home, so it's recognizing that it's not really going to be big agriculture.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, my parcel
Seems
is
like a-
rural residential.
Yeah.
We have 2 acres of land that's our house and the rest is farmed, but
Yeah.
it's rural residential. There's a house on it.
Sounds logical.
Yeah.
Just so how
I'm
do you
fine with
decide which areas, I mean, so Roxanne is talking about.
Low
I wish
density.
My eyes were better, Reynolds Road, Podunk,
Tyrell.
oh, Tyrell, yeah. So,
Yeah.
and so switching that area there from low density to rural,
Light yellow, like supposed.
yeah, to the rural residential. Seems like a practical solution. Does that make sense, Roxanne,
In
versus?
Iredell.
I
I
think
would be fine with
It
that,
would, it would address the area you're talking about.
but recognize that there's houses currently on there.
there's houses on agricultural land too.
I know.
But we don't like change them into a housing residential zone because
That's
there's
what
a
I'm saying.
house
My
on it.
house is on rural residential and there, I know.
But
that
there's
house-
houses
Are you-
on
but I think-
agriculture.
I know.
The difference
I see-
is a
I
lot
know
of these are
exactly.
already on relatively small lots.
Yes.
I think what you're talking about is
No, some of them-
potentially a 100-acre lot has a house. That's different than
5-acre lot.
Right, yes, exactly.
Well, I live in an
1 acre.
agricultural district now, it's 2 acres, my neighbor's 3 acres, you know, we're agricultural.
Right, but some of those are they're much larger,
Yeah, there's
much larger than 5
200
acres.
acre parcel right there with my father's
That's rural residential,
No,
yeah,
it's
so,
agriculture.
no, but some of these big ones, unnamed street, that's a pretty big parcel of land there.
That's Spruce Road. So we actually probably should just completely change that.
And some of these other ones
Yeah.
are pretty
From
big, if you
residential
click
into
on them, they're
residential.
like
'Cause that's a
20,
campground, that's not-
30 acres.
That
This
was
one
gonna be
over
my
here
comment.
on Mayo Road, yeah, I mean,
Right, that would be.
they're not real small. A lot of those are not really
It's
small.
commercial, it's not agricultural.
So is it, so
Yeah.
a proposal that's on the table now is in the southwest corner here, or really anything, we say anything that's in Ag District 2, be converted or be changed from low density residential to rural residential.
I'd like it to just be changed to agricultural. And you make agriculture work. But I'm sure that won't go, but I definitely think low density residential and outlining that. And then having ag properties in the middle is just gonna cause property owners one at a time to wanna come and get theirs moved out of the map.
So the proposal is to convert those to rural residential. How many, what say the masses? Raise your hand.
Can you
if
show
you
me
think that's a good
exactly
idea.
what section on the map?
It's anything in here,
Okay.
All that,
Um,
yeah, that whole area.
yeah, anything that's inside, basically anything inside of Ag District 2
Versus leaving it as it is or changing it to.
to agriculture. So let's just start with rural residential. 1, 2.
That's in ag district 2. you're
Yes,
saying?
ma'am.
Well, everywhere. In the whole map or just in that area?
In the southwest corner.
That whole southwest corner is ag
Yes.
district 2. Yep.
Okay, looks like lots of consensus.
I'm not in the southwest corner.
I think we caught you though. If I remember correctly.
No, you do not.
Almost in Trumansburg.
Oh, okay. All right.
This is
Another-
agricultural district 2 for this town.
That has changed though,
Not much,
but it has changed.
a little bit.
So I would suggest that there are no issues that we'll be able to address in
Right.
3 minutes.
Probably not,
But you did a ton of work tonight. It's
But-
really great. You got some big things done.
that was excellent to pick one that we could get done in 10 minutes. Thank you, Roxanne. So I think, do I have to do anything to close out this conversation or just say we're done with it?
You can say we're done.
We're done, okay, we're gonna do a motion or something, okay. So we confirm, well, first we have to confirm that our next meeting is January 28th, is that right? At 5:30, okay. So we're confirming that, and then we need a motion to adjourn.
Quickly, sorry. What do we need to do? We will comments. So on the 28th, or when we will comments?
What's the
There
topic?
aren't further comments, right? We've closed comments.
I just want to make sure
Yeah.
everybody knows.
So we closed comments on the draft.
And you're reviewing those.
We're reviewing those now. What we're, and we'll need some guidance from the committee on this. Aren't you sad you didn't just say we're out of here? What I would suggest is to, because what we want to do is get an updated draft in the hands of the public, but we wanted it to be more meaningful with respect to this. I think you moved some pretty big boulders tonight, particularly with respect to the conservation district and the Lakeshore district and the industrial stuff. We heard that loud and clear from the public. What we would like to do is take the aggregated comments where we've received consensus, adopt and put those into the draft, update this map and the associated character area designation language that we agreed upon tonight, or came to consensus to on tonight, put those in the draft, and then release that draft for public consumption.
I think editing, I'd like to wait one more meeting till we finish talking about this map, because we have not yet talked about that whole orange area. There's a huge amount of comments from the public on it. It's a massive upzoning expansion of density in the town, out in agricultural areas. We haven't even talked about it, and
So
I,
before releasing it.
yeah,
No, but
before
we
we
need to-
release the changed map, I would like us to have more conversation to finish. We didn't finish the map yet, and addressing some pretty substantial comments that the public has had, and
Well, how do you
some
guys
members
feel
of
about
this
that?
committee
Like
have
having
had.
iterations, or is it like you just
So
wait
there-
till it all comes
We
in?
have 2 more iterations.
The committee has, well, yeah, 2 more. One now for public consumption and review, and then one that it's referred to the town board, yes. So my question to the committee is, all of you have barometers in the community, right? You understand what's going on out there. If we released a map with the changes we made tonight, do you foresee, would it generate more, any kind of consternation versus waiting a couple of weeks and seeing if there's a change? Because there's not a guarantee we're going to change anything in there. You're going to change anything in there, but I don't, 2 weeks isn't the end of the world.
Well, but no, I agree that if there's comments out that we haven't addressed, there's a process that we have a responsibility
Yeah.
as the committee
I think we
to
should wait.
hear. Yeah, to hear out our community members and take into account what they say. And if we have not yet gotten to all of that, it seems like we need to work that magic.
But then we have to get, because we need to
Gotta
see,
get-
we need to
yeah.
get another draft out to the public. We haven't seen one since October 17th.
But so I guess that's my question, like,
It's
is
fine
that
if
a
we
bad
wait one
thing?
more meeting, but that is, I think we need to get this other out.
Yeah.
Out. We need to keep this process going. We gave ourselves enough more time,
Oh, no, I agree.
but
I'm
we need
not
to keep this moving
saying-
forward.
Yeah, no, I think so too.
So-
My question was, do you submit, like, here's the changes that were made and next we're talking about orange section? Or do you just say like, we're not releasing anything and we're just doing it all in 2 weeks? We're gonna take into account what we talk about at our next meeting. I don't know what's better. It's
Well, just remaking the map so many times, I don't know that makes sense.
too confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
think it's
and
confusing,
the
yeah.
additional time. So
I
Yeah.
mean, from my barometer of what I've read, what people have approached me about, yes, leaving all that orange will cause them to want our committee to discuss that in
Yeah,
public
we had
and
a lot
hear
of
what we
comments
say.
on that.
We had a lot.
Oh, and I'm not suggesting we don't have that conversation, we should have that conversation, but I would be very reluctant to have the delayed 2 weeks ready to draft to the public. And so, yes, we are under a very, very strict deadline, to be done by the end of March, and this would delay us 2 more weeks, right? I am not in favor of that. I think we should release this as part of the next draft to the public and then continue our conversation as we keep going. Because this will not, the map isn't the final map. We have one more iteration to change it. But 2 week delay is a significant delay. taking this meeting, doubling it now, so you don't.
No, I can see it both ways. I'm flexible as long as we are able to, I mean, I don't care if we put one out and then we put a second one out in 3 weeks, you know, that takes into account all the other comments. To me, what's important is that we're listening to what the public, we're discussing what their input is.
I think put a draft out. Okay, put it out, otherwise people ask the same questions about that.
That's true.
And it seems like we're not even listening to
9
them.
other sections.
Well, no, we are. Roxanne. What do you mean? No.
We made updates based off of the feedback that
We
we've
listened
gotten.
tonight,
from
Right.
made
people.
changes.
We just didn't get to
We didn't
discuss
finish
everything.
it though.
Right,
We're
didn't
doing
just-
that next time. That's what we're saying. I think that's what we're saying. Am I misunderstanding?
No,
Okay, I'm understanding that there's gonna be an updated map released that is at this point in time, which is today, end of this meeting now. And then in 2 weeks, we have another meeting, at which time we're gonna be talking about all the other comments that we really need to be talking about. And then there will be more changes. Like
Yes. So
there will
the,
be another update in 2
so
weeks.
the final, final changes, or the final, you gotta stop saying final. The last draft that this committee reviews will incorporate every bit of your discussion and every bit of your review of public comment. To the supervisor's point and to Ms. Weathery's, we're 90 days, 100 days since we last communicate, or since we last provided the public with a product. At the last public forum, we had a really all of our guests were really well prepared, but we had a really well prepared guest come in and say, I just reviewed this draft that's online. None of my comments have been addressed. And we said, none of the comments have been addressed at that time. And so there's some thirst for what y'all been up to.
Right, work in progress.
This
Yeah.
is a snapshot.
Exactly. That's right.
because they want to see
And we'll
it.
communicate it that way.
There's been a lot of changes,
Yeah, I
a
think we
lot
have to
since
make it very
October,
clear
and
that
we
it's a
want to
draft
make sure
and
people
will be updated again.
Yeah. can get that out. So I
We
don't,
can
yeah,
do
I
that.
don't think we're ignoring anything.
And I don't have it in front of me, and I don't want to ask Jessica to dig at it, but it's not a genie move. So it is and to your point, taking the changes that were made tonight and beginning to incorporate them into a
Exactly.
readable draft. That draft is going to be released after you have your next meeting. So we're not going to release it next week.
True.
It's going to be
So we
released
said the
after
end
you
of July,
have your next
30th.
meeting. It takes about 3 weeks to put the draft together. And so you don't want to delay again, because if you delay again, then it's just 3 more weeks beyond the 2 weeks. So we'll work with Niels and with the team to communicate to the public, this is the next evolution. Expect another evolution from here.
Wait, so I don't understand what you're saying. You're saying that the full draft, that's the big thing
Mhm.
in the fancy format,
Yes,
that is gonna take 3
it's
weeks,
going to take a couple weeks to get out.
a couple weeks to get out. And our next meeting is in a couple weeks where we might make more decisions on the map.
Yes.
And so
So if you
how,
delay it, the public won't see a draft.
and then it's
until
gonna take a couple more weeks than
No.
that?
after-
If we changed some things at the
Depending
meeting
on,
in 2
I
weeks.
would say depending on what comes out of our meeting in 2 weeks, they may be able to incorporate it, they may not be able to incorporate it into that draft. It might be reflective in that next draft.
Yes.
So it could be in the
It
The
could be,
draft that
depending-
comes
it
out.
could be.
But
okay.
right. But I promise you, what is going to happen is deep in the recesses of that long form document of public comment and committee comment is someone sitting out there on the edge of their couch waiting for it to change. There will be people who see the draft in a couple of weeks and say, you still haven't gotten my comments. And so expect to hear that feedback on this and on lots of other things, because we just don't have the throughput to address every comment super quick. All right, I think I know where we're headed. Thank
I have
you.
a motion on the table.
Oh,
All right, I'll second it to adjourn.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks you guys for sticking with us.
Yeah, thanks for being here.